Última hora. La honorable Marjorie Taylor ha expuesto importantes declaraciones sobre cómo el ilegítimo hizo fraude. Y peor aún. Expuso cómo el ilegítimo está implementando cambios para los siguientes comicios, los cuales aumentan la probabilidad de estas elecciones sean arregladas. Saben que el titán va a llegar pronto al poder. Y no quieren permitirlo de ninguna manera. En estos momentos el ilegítimo ha aprobado $50 millones para el aborto. Acabando con lo que está bien. Esto es completamente absurdo. Los demócratas están acabando con estas pobres criaturas que a pesar de no haber nacido no tuvieron opción alguna de decidir con las nuevas leyes firmadas por el ilegítimo. Ya no solo quieren negar la opción a ellos, sino que también a todo el país de decidir a quién elegir. Debido a que está implementando leyes para cambiar el proceso electoral. Con esto tendrán el control total del país. Parece ser el comienzo de una dictadura de izquierda. Con al parecer el apoyo de China. Esto no debe ser permitido. El titán debe regresar lo más pronto posible al mando. A continuación el importante comunicado de la honorable Marjorie Taylor comprobando todo sobre el actuar del ilegítimo.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you all. I appreciate you coming out. And isn't it nice to sit in a movie theater again? I wish we had a great movie tonight, but tonight I'm your movie, so I hope I can do a good job. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would that be okay? If everyone please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. We're proud to say the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Yeah. You know, it's not something the Democrats are proud of, though. Just recently on the Judiciary Committee, Jerry Nadler refused the request from Representative Matt Gaetz when he requested to be able to say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of their Judiciary Committee meetings. Jerry Nadler refused that. So that's where we are as a nation, members of Congress refusing to say the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of committee meetings. Well, on that note, I wear the badge of honor, and I do say it's a badge of honor. I've only been in Congress for 35 days, and the Democrats, plus 11, we'll call them Republicans, voting to remove me from my committee assignments for refusing to back down on who I am. I'm a Christian, and I'm proud of that. I'm also a conservative, and I'm very proud of that. I'm a Trump supporter. And I'm very proud of that. And I'm a proud American woman, and thankful for that. I had the great opportunity to stand on a world stage in front of everyone and say, I've done things wrong, I've said things wrong, and for those things I'm sorry for, but I don't change who I am or my values, or am willing to back down. I won't back down. And the Democrats found that to be a big threat, just like they find President Trump to be a great threat, and that's why they voted to remove me. But here's the deal for you all to understand. These committees mean nothing. Republicans have no representation on committees right now. And that little story about the Pledge of Allegiance is a perfect example, and I'll give you some more tonight. Democrats are currently running a tyrannical controlled government. We have Joe Biden in the White House signing executive order after executive order, pushing the Democrat agenda. We have Nancy Pelosi leading the Democrats in the House of Representatives. I fondly refer to it as the House of Hypocrites, because they are hypocrites. They are pushing their agenda through as fast as they possibly can, and then we have a Senate that is 50-50 with the deciding vote, a radical Democrat, Vice President Kamala Harris. That's the situation that we have with our federal government. So when I tell you Republicans have no voice right now in Washington, it's true, but we are working very hard to change that. There's a lot of things to be hopeful for. I'll give you some other examples of things they're doing. So in committee meetings, Republicans are introducing their amendments that they'd like to add. You know how we had to, I voted no, by the way, to the budget that's $2 trillion. $2 trillion to Biden's stimulus spending bill. It was an empty budget. Can you imagine writing a check for, say, $2,000 or $20,000 and signing your name not knowing what the money is going towards? That's what the Democrats did with your hard-earned tax dollars with this budget. They wrote a check with no plan whatsoever of how to spend $2 trillion. That is shameful, and it should have never happened. So they passed this budget, and then they're using the process of reconciliation. Reconciliation is the process where they go back to committees and they put in exactly how they want to spend the $2 trillion. That's the process that's taking place right now. All Republican amendments are being struck down. Republicans have no say in how this $2 trillion is being spent. I'll give you one of the examples. $50 million is going to Planned Parenthood to fund abortion. That's right. President Trump stopped this. Democrats have brought it back right away in the name of COVID stimulus spending. I don't know how $50 million has anything for Planned Parenthood has anything to do with COVID. Murdering God's creation in the womb is something that should never, ever happen. But this country is responsible for murdering over 62 million people created by God in the womb, and they continue to encourage it, and now we're funding it in the name of a COVID bill through the process of reconciliation. You didn't get to vote on that, did you? None of you did. Neither did Republicans. Another example of things they're doing is, here I'll give you an example on the Agriculture Committee. One of the ways that they're spending your money is a loan forgiveness for farmers. Now that sounds okay, right? Farmers struggle. But this is a 120% loan forgiveness for socially disadvantaged farmers. That means if you're white, you don't qualify. And 120% loan forgiveness doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Loan forgiveness would be a percentage up to 100% of the loan. But 120% is paying them. It's paying them a profit for their loan. And you only qualify for it if you're socially disadvantaged, and that's based on your race. But white people don't qualify. It is racist, but this is where Democrats are going. You could even call it possibly reparations, because they talked about how black farmers suffered through slavery, and of course they did. It was a terrible thing. But yet 120% loan forgiveness shouldn't be happening. But this is what Democrats are doing through the reconciliation process in the $2 trillion budget they just passed. That's not all, though. They are continuing down a trail, and there's 2,000 pages of what's being put in this $2 trillion budget that not everyone has even had time to read yet. I was just giving you guys a couple of examples. It's amazing how fast things are happening. Well, I'm sure you all saw the impeachment trial in the Senate, the second one. Trump is back-to-back champions against Nancy Pelosi. That has really got to upset her. I bet she couldn't even eat any of those Dove bars that she loved so much out of her freezer. But you know President Trump, he was enjoying it down in Mar-a-Lago. He probably had a Dove bar. He should have had one. I tell you what, it's this nonstop circus, and the media can't take it. They have to have something and someone to talk about constantly, because if they didn't, they'd have to actually talk about the real things that the Democrats are doing in the federal government, like some of the things I just told you about. But they love the circus, they love it, and they covered that nonstop in the Senate. What a waste of our time, what a waste of our money, and what an embarrassment for our nation. That's how I see it. Well, let's talk about some things that have been going on. I'll fill you in on my first month in Congress. You know, I've never held political office before. I never wanted to, frankly. You know why I ran. I was upset, fed up, and decided that we need to have real people in there. And so, listen, I need more real people in there because the swamp is deep and it's definitely real. We voted on the rules package the second day after we were sworn in. Now, the rules package is the rules that govern the House. You know, different rules for us. The most shocking thing to me, and I voted no to the rules, is that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats put in the rules that we can no longer use gender pronouns. Yeah. So I can't refer to Nancy Pelosi as she or her. I can't use those gender pronouns, is what the rules said. And they took away family names. Like, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have a brother, I have a mother, I have a father, I have 2 daughters and a son. They took away the right for us to use these family pronouns. So I voted no, and I was very vocal about it because here's how I really see it. This is a complete, direct attack on God's creation because God created them male and female. In His image, He created us. The Democrats passing their rules for the 117th Congress was a direct attack on God's creation. That's how you know everything they are doing is evil. Absolutely evil. It's completely shameful. So that was my second day. I think I was pretty stunned over that one. That was January 4th. January 4th, that evening, I flew with President Trump on Air Force One to come here to Dalton for the rally that we had for our Senate seats because January 5th was the election. I'm going to tell you a little something about President Trump. His biggest fault might be is that he is so kind and has such a big heart. I just want to tell you how much he loves our country and he loves you all. He loves the people of this nation. He loves our military men and women. He loves our law enforcement. And he loves our businesses and our freedoms. And he is unrelenting in his dedication to doing everything he can for America and America first. So I very much enjoyed that time with him, and I'm sure some of you may have seen the rally. That was a lot of fun. Well, January 6th came, and we had worked for weeks on objecting to Joe Biden's electoral college votes in 6 states. This took a lot of preparation and work with myself and other members. We read lots of affidavits signed by regular people who had signed these affidavits at the risk of perjuring themselves in a court of law, stating they had seen election fraud, stating they had seen wrongful things happen. And it was important for their voices to be heard, and it was also important to present true evidence that had never been presented in a court of law because all of these cases had been thrown out on standing. The election problems have never been heard in court. January 6th was an important day for us to do that, and we worked very hard to be able to object to these 6 states and be able to be the voice for the people and present the election fraud for President Trump as a candidate for president. Well, I want to tell you it was extremely disappointing to me, the attack on the Capitol. It stopped our objection. You see, it stopped it. And there's some key things that weren't presented in the Senate trial that I want to remind everyone about. I want to remind everyone that we knew days ahead, and I had been told a couple of days before the 6th that there were credible threats they knew there was something going to happen on the 6th. They knew ahead of time. There were also pipe bombs placed at the RNC and the DNC the night before the attack on the 5th. That didn't happen spontaneously because people were incited to violence from President Trump's speech. Those were pipe bombs planted at the Republican and Democrat headquarters. That's something they didn't talk about in that Senate trial, did they? No. The other thing I want to talk about is that attack should have never happened. It was very upsetting. All of us have denounced it. None of us have anything to do with it. And no real Trump supporters condone it or support it. So that doesn't represent us. It doesn't represent President Trump. President Trump did not cause it when he told everyone to march peacefully and patriotically. He did not cause that violence. It was planned ahead of time. And then unfortunately, there were people that got caught up in it and went in behind them. And they should have never done it. That's the truth about January 6th. The media and the Democrats, they have an agenda. They want to paint President Trump as a domestic terrorist. They want to paint him as the cause of that attack. And by doing so, they're painting every single one of you the same way. They want to label you as violent, radical, domestic terrorist. You want to know why? Because you are the most patriotic, loving people in this nation. There were so many Trump rallies that were never violent, ever. And I've been to many of them. How many times have you seen people waving an American flag, waving a Trump flag, driving around with their trucks, Trump signs in their yard, MAGA hats? We are not the party of violence, the Democrats are. This is the party that promoted, supported, fundraised for Antifa BLM violent riots for the entire past year. Then the media blasted them all over and called them peaceful protests. We have radical members of Congress and now a vice president who shared the Minnesota Freedom Fund bail bond link to help these criminals, they're the domestic terrorists, get bailed out of jail so they can return to the streets and carry on with their violence. Now, after January 6th, the Joe Biden administration, Nancy Pelosi, and Mitch McConnell in the Senate built a wall around the Capitol, a border wall, but the American people don't deserve a border wall. The elites deserve the border wall. And then they surrounded the Capitol with 30,000 members of the National Guard, our great men and women who serve, and they did it to protect themselves. But they never once wanted to send the National Guard to protect the innocent people who suffered from these riots, the businesses that were burned and looted from these riots, these Antifa BLM riots, the police officers that endured attacks day after day, night after night. They never sent the National Guard to protect the police precincts, to protect the federal buildings, or the statues that these people attacked and tore down. This is who the Democrats are. They're the party that supports the real domestic terrorists in this country. And they would love to censure us, and if they do, I'll gladly stand up there. There might be a certain mask I wear. You know I like to wear a certain mask. If they're going to make me wear a mask, which, by the way, I do wear them around people in the risk group. There are certain people that I totally and completely want to protect. And we know who they are from COVID, right? But if I have to wear a mask, and I have to wear them every time I'm there, those are the rules. I always wear a mask with a message. So I brought with me a new one. I thought you guys would enjoy seeing. I haven't worn it yet, but I'm looking forward to. So this is my next mask. very proud to have introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden. You see, for too long we've had Republicans that have been too weak to fight back, and we've had enough of that. Democrats are running the playbook and they're on offense all the way. It's time to lead Republicans to do the same. Joe Biden is guilty of abusing his power of the presidency, vice presidency. When he was vice president, he's on tape, on video, saying that he would withhold money to get a certain prosecutor fired in Ukraine. That prosecutor was going after his son, Hunter Biden, for his corrupt business dealings with certain energy companies in Ukraine. That's a pattern of behavior that exists and continues forward. Hunter Biden is still an owner in a company in China. He still holds his share. The Biden family is known for abusing their position, abusing their power with foreign country energy companies, while at the same time the Biden administration and the Democrats want to kill American energy. The first thing they want to do is take out oil and coal. They want to pass AOC's Green New Deal. They want to get to net zero carbon emissions so that none of you can drive a car or truck, and I don't know how airplanes are going to get around because they all work on oil, right? Currently, we have Texas frozen because they're using what? Wind turbines. Not well. It's not working out well. But this is who we're dealing with. This is a party that's so blinded, they don't know right from wrong and wrong from right. So let's talk about some things that are going to be happening. One big one that I care about and I know you care about is election integrity. This is a #1 issue. And it's an issue that everyone needs to stay involved in. So I want to tell you from the federal level and then what I know a little bit from the state level. But I want to start with this. I encourage you to stay involved on this issue. Call, email, go to meetings, pay attention to committee meetings, stay informed and make sure that our state leaders know exactly what you want and how important this is. It's imperative. We have to fix our elections here in Georgia. Well, I want to tell you what the Democrats' plan is on the federal level. They want to pass H.R. 1. Do you know what H.R. 1 is? House Resolution 1. This would federalize elections, which should never happen. Takes away state rights. I'm going to tell you a little bit. I'm just going to go through, highlight a few things. It's going to force states to adopt voting laws that remove their autonomy to conduct elections. That's wrong. The federal government should never violate state rights. It increases voter fraud by allowing ineligible people to vote in multiple jurisdictions. Requires states to adopt online voter registration or registration through telephone, despite serious hacking and cybersecurity issues. Can you imagine just calling up and saying, I'd like to register to vote? I don't know how that's going to work out. Mandates automatic voter registration, opening the gateway for illegals and non-eligible voters. Vote to be counted the same as lawful citizens. So illegals and non-eligible voters will be the same as your vote. That should never happen in America. It requires states to adopt same-day voter registration, reducing the window for election officials to verify whether a person is eligible to vote. Well, I think after our presidential election and our 2 Senate seats, we're concerned about our state officials making sure the right people are registered to vote, aren't we? Yeah. Yes, we are. Prohibits states from double-checking that someone is not registered in multiple states to vote. How are they going to have time, if they're doing same-day voter registration, to make sure this person registering on the day of the election is not registered in, say, multiple other states? California, New York, who knows? They're not going to have the time to be able to do that. It allows felons to vote if they are no longer in prison, in contradiction to the 14th Amendment. Forces states to promote mail-in voting for those eligible and only requires officials to compare signatures with an official list to verify, that's official by the way, to verify identity. Mail-in voting, how do you guys feel about mail-in voting?
No!
Biggest problem, biggest mistake Georgia made, absentee ballots for anyone and everyone.
Yeah.
Brad Raffensperger.
Yeah, no man, no Canadian.
The H.R. 1 also expresses the will of Congress that D.C. should be given statehood.
No.
And afforded all of the voting rights associated. How does H.R. 1, an election bill, have anything to do with D.C. and statehood? It shouldn't. Removes the power of redistricting from the states and places it in a congressional commission. Do you trust a congressional commission?
No.
Have you ever seen anything good come from a congressional commission?
No.
They want to, so according to this, they'll want to draw our districts. Adds layers of bureaucracy and red tape in order for states to purge people from voter registration rolls. How about those dead voters, everybody? Right. Creates a taxpayer-financed small dollar donation match to give congressional and presidential candidates, so you'll be paying for people's campaigns, violating the public trust of federal dollars and bankrolling Democratic candidates for higher office. It also reduces the number of members on the Federal Election Commission's board in order to allow the chairman to stack the other 4 members so as to be a rubber stamp and affirm a single party ideology. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, we're having enough of a single party ideology because the Democrat Party is the party of socialism. They're anti-American and they're destroying our freedoms day by day as rapidly as possible. H.R. 1 must be stopped. If you are able, please call every member of Congress you can, email them, post on their social media, and tell them to stop H.R. 1. I'm going to be doing everything I can to work against it. This is very important. Now let's talk about Georgia. They are working hard to fix our elections. There's proposals in Georgia bills, and here's some of the proposals that I've been told. They want to require photo ID for absentee by mail. They want to ban ballot drop boxes. They want to block outside groups for sending absentee ballot applications. That would be Stacey Abrams groups, everyone. How many of these absentee ballot applications did you all get? Like 8? 4, 5, and you're registered voters, right? Exactly. Yeah, the invasion into our state by these outside groups was unbelievable. They want to end automatic voter registration when you get your driver's license. I think that's a good one. And they want to ban new residents voting in runoffs. If you didn't vote in the general, you shouldn't vote in the runoff. I want to see a stop to all these absentee ballots. That's what I want to see in Georgia. Yeah. And then I'll say this, and this is my personal opinion, but I'd love to see Georgia taxpayers and voters continue to demand accountability from Dominion. Yeah. The taxpayers are the customers. The taxpayers pay for the machines. They pay everyone that works in the election offices. If you want to know what's in them, you deserve it because you're the customer. And I fully believe that, and I'll continue to say it. Customer service, right? And you shouldn't be shamed or called a conspiracy theorist because you want to see an audit. Nothing wrong with that. Private companies are audited all the time. We really should be auditing the Fed, right? Yeah.
Suscríbete al canal Tu Mundo Ahora y activa la campanita, así no te perderás ninguna noticia de los hechos más importantes de América y el mundo.